Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Donna Fiesel, and I'm your host of Donna's Edge Talk Show, where truth matters. Thank you so much for watching every day, Monday through Friday, beginning at 1 p.m. Central Time, as I get to ride home with you and bring wonderful guests with me as we can all go down the road together and just have a good time. You can find us on the radio at In Christ Radio, icradio.media, where we are Fox News affiliates. You can also find us on television, channel 182 Charter, and Abundant Television syndicated, found on Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire. And don't forget the podcast of the newscasters.com. And you can find us on all the social media sites. We're just glad to hear from you. You can continue sending emails. It's our honor to be able to respond. You can send an email anytime you want to Donna@donnasedge.com. That's Donna@donnasedge.com. I have Amanda Lawrence with me right now, and she's with Chayah, and it's a ministry. And I'll tell you, the more I do research, I mean, you guys got it going on. We talked in a previous interview about how everything got started, but I know you have some more things you want to talk about as well. So I'll just throw it at you, Amanda. Again, thanks for being with me today.
Yes, absolutely. Well, like Donna said, I'm Amanda. I am the executive director and founder of Chayah Ministries. If you weren't with us last time, I'll let you know we exist to provide Christ-centered discipleship resources to women and their children that have suffered from trauma, addiction, and mental health challenges. We believe that true healing comes through intersecting neuroscience and Christ. And leaving out the faith part really leaves out the full healing that can be encompassed. I'm excited to be back. We have had our first full year in operation. So in 10 days, we'll celebrate our first birthday. And it has been truly an incredible year. We've made a pretty huge impact in our community, and we're looking forward to what's coming next in this next year.
What are some of the things that you see kind of over and over again? Is it a constant with some of the folks that come through the group?
Yeah, so we have actually worked with a lot of women that have been suffering from addiction, has been a common theme. And then there's also the other theme would be women that have gone through abusive relationships. So in this past year, we have begun Chayah groups, and these are groups that we take out to the community. We offer them in person and virtually, and we work through resources that help us. The resource that we're using now is called Keys to Freedom, and it walks through 7 keys to finding freedom in Christ. This is amazing because it doesn't matter if you've been, if it's been trauma or addiction or abuse, any of those things, we need freedom. We need to be renewed. We need to have healing. And so these 7 keys encompass some of those steps that you would take to find the healing. And some of the feedback we've gotten is just incredible. Like, the women are growing. They are uncovering things that they haven't before. Women that have been in church, or women that have been in recovery centers or recovery programs. They're going deeper than they have in any of those.
Let me ask you a question, because a lot of things that we do and a lot of things we don't do is because we don't create some kind of a habit, something where the mind just kind of knows, well, this is what we're going to do next. Mm-hmm. Do you find having a step program like that just kind of helps people to develop a habit?
Yeah, it does. One of the key parts of this program is 1 week we focus on renewing the mind. Okay. And it is so important that we apply this. But the problem is that if you're a Christian, if you've been in church, it's a command, right? God tells us to renew our mind, but we don't know how. Because we have these habits that we've created. And they might be actual physical, tangible habits. Like, maybe every time we're stressed, we go to the pantry and we grab the potato chips. Maybe it's worse and we grab the bottle. But the other thing that happens too is our body creates these habits. And so our body and our brain start responding to things in ways that is subconscious, and we have the ability to renew our mind. God created our bodies and our brains with this ability to renew our mind. And so 1 week, like the whole week that we focus on renewing our mind, actually gets in and starts uncovering what are the things, what are these nasty habits that we've created. And oftentimes you start off by a choice. You're choosing this thing, you're choosing this habit, but then the biology comes in and the changes start happening in your body. And sometimes that habit starts choosing you, and now you're stuck.
Mm-hmm. I totally get what you mean. So my husband and I have decided because we go through an exercise program, but we don't make a habit out of it, And so I started doing knee bends, and I'm just not feeling it with the knee bends like I did with the previous exercise program we were on. And it's just us, it's just the two of us. We neither one of us to go to a gym or anything like that. And I said, why don't we get back to using these? They were like a big, huge rubber band kind of a thing. Okay. And you would think they wouldn't work. Okay. So a lady I know who told me about this, she said, now I know how ambitious you are. I'm telling you to start out with 5, then 10, then 15, then 20. So I did 5 and I'm thinking, no big deal. I'm going ahead and do 10. Well, no big deal. I did 20. And I'm going to tell you, I was so sore I could not work out for another week.
Yeah.
So that's the importance. Sometimes I want to overdo things. Do you run into folks like me that just like, 5's not enough, and then they get burned out?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that it's important that we recognize a couple things when you are working through mental health stuff, and it's to take it step by step. Mm-hmm. And to create a community around you. Because you were saying, it's just you two. You guys can probably, take it or leave it, right? You don't have an accountability, but it's also part of the reason why people go out and get personal trainers. I did it once. I was like ready to, just take charge of my health. I went out and got a personal trainer. I went in 3 times a week, met him. It was great. It was wonderful. And as soon as I stopped, I didn't want to keep spending the money on it. I was like, I have this habit. Well, that accountability lot left, and I was like, I can skip Monday, I'll go on Tuesday. I can skip Tuesday, I'll just go Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And it was so easy to just not go. Mm-hmm. So then I finally get back into it and I go full force all the way. I hurt my knee. My knee is completely like I couldn't even walk on it. I put too much weight on it. And it's easy to look at it in the physical. It's hard to recognize and to understand that the same thing can happen in the mental and the emotional. And it's important that we do take some of this stuff, piecemeal or step by step, and that we allow God's leading on how we're going to uncover it. And when it does come open, and when we do see, oh, wow, this is what I've been doing. This is that habit. This is the impact that I'm making in my life. This is the destruction that we, we're gentle with it. And instead of trying to make 100 million changes, we take it step by step.
Well, what happens when we're afraid to start a habit? And I'll use exercise because I'm just telling you, I was really sore after overdoing it. I mean, really mm-hmm. was. And it took me a little while to get over it. So then I'm thinking about, I got to get back in it again. But I'm afraid I might get hurt. Mm-hmm. Can that be some reasons we don't begin habits?
Yeah. So I got sober at a young age. In December, I will have 18 years of sobriety. I will say I'm almost 40. So I got sober at 22.
You don't look it.
Hey, bring it on. But I had tried, before I got sober this time, I tried on sobriety. And I went to a 12-step program and I did the things that they told me to, but it didn't last. I ended up drinking and it ended up, you know what? One of these times we need to go into more depth on my background. So when it came to the time to get sober this time, when the door was open for me to get sober this time, I was scared. I was scared because I thought I had tried it before and I failed and I didn't know if I would be able to stay sober again. And I thought I knew everything. And I knew how hard it was. And I was white knuckling it for, I don't know what, 7 months was white knuckling it. And so oftentimes people are fearful because they've tried to get over whatever it is. They've tried to practice forgiveness. They've tried to stop drinking, and they get caught up on their past experiences. But this is also why, and I'll say it over and over again, why accountability and community is so important, because they can hold you up, or they can help you when things are hard, or when you don't want to get started again, or when you're afraid of getting started again. Because when you're going through a healing journey, a lot of times it's that unknown. You're afraid because you have no idea what it's like to live free of this addiction, or free of this trauma, or free of this unhealthy relationship, because you've been living in it and it's consumed your life for so long.
Mm-hmm. And it feels almost a safe place, but it's not. Because we want to get inside that little box, because it's nice and safe and it's warm in there, even though it can hurt us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Familiarity will lie to us and tell us that this is safe. And then our brain will say, well, that's unfamiliar. I don't know what to do with that. So let's just stay here because I know how to protect you from this. And the brain's job is to protect us. That's what it wants to do. And it's to search out danger that it can protect us from. So it's like constantly looking. And so if we're right here where we know that there's danger, but I know how to protect you, that's where our own body will work against us to keep us stuck. But like I said, we have the ability to renew our minds. It just takes effort, and a lot of it.
Let's go into, can you believe half the show is already over?
Oh my gosh.
It's already half. You're a great guest. We love having you on here. So let's go into a break, and we'll be right back in just a few minutes. Twin City Used Car Sales has been serving drivers in the Northeast Alabama area for years with a quality selection of late model used cars, SUVs, and pickup trucks. On top of our extensive selection and competitive prices, we offer professional auto financing services for used car buyers of all credit levels. Whether you've just begun your search or you're ready to secure your next vehicle, at Twin City Used Car Sales, you will drive away with the vehicle of your dreams. The sales and finance staff at Twin City Used Car Sales looks forward to serving you, and you can apply for financing online before your visit to our used dealership in Gadsden, Alabama. Check us out on the web at twincityusedcars.com or go by our location at 901 First Avenue, Gadsden, Alabama. We sincerely look forward to serving you. At Lamone's Mexican Restaurant, located in Henniger, Alabama, and voted Best Mexican Restaurant of the Cobb County, Alabama 2020, we're here to serve you with authentic Mexican cuisine. Order easily online by going to lamonsmex.com or call 256-657-3999 to place your order. We're open Sunday through Thursday, 11 a.m. to 9 p.m. and Friday and Saturday, 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. Whether you're celebrating a cozy date night for two or a celebration for a crowd, at Lamone's you'll love our atmosphere and friendly servers. Thank you for dining with Lamone's Mexican Restaurant. At Liberty Bank, we're all about community, whether it's to help with a charity fundraiser or help families in need. Toys at Christmas or a local football team, we're here for you. You see, we realize the importance of family. Sometimes it's to build a new home or necessary home repairs. We're here for you. If you like the feel of a small town bank with all the conveniences of a big city bank, we're here to serve you. You will find us at any of our convenient locations in DeKalb, Marshall, Etowah, and Blount counties in North Alabama. You can call and speak with any of our friendly staff at 256-659-2175 or check us out on the web at libertybankal.com. And thank you for your support of our community. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender. Good afternoon. We're back. My name is Donna, and I'm your host of Donna's H Talk Show, Where Truth Matters. Thank you so much for watching every day, beginning at 1 p.m. Now, that's Central Time for you folks who live out all over the country. It's always so good to be with you. I have Amanda Lawrence with me right now, and it's an honor and a pleasure to have you on the show. Let's talk a little bit about hanging out with the wrong crowd. And I'll give you an example. Okay, so my son, at 15 years old, thought he was an adult, because I remember when I was 15, I thought I was too. Everybody does at 15, some younger. And so he wanted to go, with a bunch of guys, and they wanted to, just go hang out and stuff like that. But I always wanted to know who his friends were. And I said, oh, so it's going to be, and I named over his current friends. And he said, no, this is some more guys. And I said, you're not going anywhere till I meet them.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I was the world's worst mom, because nobody else's mother does that, and you know how that goes. And I said, that's fine, but anyway, I want to meet them first. And then I met them. They turned out to be okay, but sometimes just hanging out with the wrong crowd can get you in trouble, because everybody wants to be popular, everybody wants to be part of the in crowd, all those kinds of things. And sometimes it can even be your own family. How do you separate people who are not looking out for your best interest, whether that be friends or whether it be family?
Man, it's so hard when it's family. Especially if you live close to your family, and you are a very, they're very active and present in each other's life. It's very hard. I think of small towns and how you just kind of know what you know, and the people that you know. And I look back on even my hometown, and I think you just go through your motions, right? You're doing what you do, and it's the same people, and it's the same day, and sometimes those people are not good for you. What do you do? My goodness. That's where boundaries come in, and it's so hard. And a boundary, I think, is important to recognize. It's not saying it's not telling somebody else how they're going to act or what they have to do or what they're not allowed to do. But it is telling somebody sometimes you have to be careful here. Sometimes it's verbally telling somebody how you're going to respond in a certain situation. If you come from a family that there's a lot of yelling, and now you have kids, and maybe it's your dad that is a big yeller. And so you come over, it's holiday, you guys are having dinner, and dad gets mad about something and starts yelling. Well, that would be a scenario where you could verbalize a boundary. Hey, dad, if you start yelling, we're going to leave. I don't want my kids around this. I love you, but we're going to leave. Other times, it depends on who you're working with here and who you're dealing with. Sometimes you can be I see this often in divorces, where maybe there's a narcissistic or abusive spouse. And I hate using the N word because it gets thrown everywhere these days, and anybody that doesn't like somebody will self-diagnose them that. But there are those tendencies. And so when you're working in that sort of situation, it's more of an internal boundary. You're not going to verbalize that sort of boundary in those emotionally abusive situations. And the reason being is because if you verbalize a boundary, then they're going to go cross it. If you give it to somebody that's a manipulator or emotionally abusive, as soon as you draw the line, that's what they're going to cross. And so you do an internal boundary, and you tell yourself, when this happens, I'm going to do this. When this happens, I'm not going to respond. I'm going to stop having these conversations. I'm going to remove myself. And you don't have any sort of conversation about it. You just do it. But that is one of the most important things that we have to do. Now, the other part is part of why Chayah Ministries came to be is because I believe the power of your environment, and my heart breaks for children that are suffering, and they're suffering from a product of their environment. Maybe their parents are abusive or addicted or whatnot. And my heart breaks for these kids that are maybe they're dealing with their own mental health stuff, and they're sent to, I don't know, an adolescent treatment center or an inpatient program, or they're sent to counseling, or they're sent to a psychiatrist. They're sent to all of these places, but they leave and they go home. And they go home to the negative environment. They go home to the abusive environment. They go home to the environment that's full of everything that poured into them to get them into the place that they were at before. And my heart is, let's get the mamas healed so mamas can take care of their babies. Because if we're not healing as adults, then we can't take care of the next generation that's to come. We have to have renewed minds so that we know that person's not a safe person. So that we know, I don't want my children around that. So that we know, red flag, I'm not even gonna have kids with that person. You don't perpetuate this cycle of emotional abuse, but you can recognize it before you even get yourself caught up in it. But it also goes back to that familiarity, unfamiliarity thing. If we're not healed, then no matter how unsafe that environment is, or those people are, or those relationships are, we're going to be drawn to them until we find healing.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely. Now, let me ask you another question. Is this kind of can it turn into a generational thing?
Mm. Yeah.
Where mom was an abuser, mom was a troublemaker, mama was a whatever, narcissist, whatever the N word, whatever you say.
Yeah.
Then what are the probabilities that the children, or at least some of the children, are going to turn out to be that way?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it definitely can be generational. And unfortunately, it often is. It's more of a one-off to break the cycle than to start the cycle. But with that being said, there is a way out. That it doesn't, just because you came from that does not mean you have to stay there. Just because you came from poverty, addiction, abuse does not mean you have to stay there. There's a lot of research out on adverse childhood experiences. They call it an ACEs scale. And what the likelihood is for you to become addicted if you have 4 or more ACEs. And these ACEs, these adverse childhood experiences, they're everything from a parent that was violent in front of you, a parent dying in front of you, incarcerated parent, being fearful of not having food or a place to live, and the list goes on. But research shows that the higher number of adverse childhood experiences, the more prone you are to mental health issues, to PTSD, to addiction, to reciprocating abuse and violence. So yeah, unfortunately, there are generational things that happen, but you don't have to. You don't have to stay stuck. There's resources out there today to help you out of that pattern and to break. And all it takes is one generation to break this cycle and say, I am going to do something different. I'm going to do something different for my kids, my kids' kids. That's all it takes.
My brother is a year younger than I am, so we grew up in that type of a home. Mm-hmm. And so we really close, is because we only had each other basically. And so I would go to friends' homes and he would go to friends' homes and we would talk about that later. We would say, their parents aren't acting like ours. So at a very early age, I decided I wanted to change it. And I just, I tell my son I love him every day. And this dude is like 45 years old. And it's and I don't treat him like a child because he's married and he's got a wonderful wife. If I could have picked it out, she would have been the one. So anyway, she is absolutely awesome. But sometimes parents need to know when to let go. And something happened before my son and daughter-in-law got married. So the church we were all going to wanted to talk with them. And the pastor actually invited me to come. So I'm setting out. I knew what he was probably doing. You know, he was wanting to make sure that, because Brad and I are close, wanted to make sure I wasn't going to be some kind of a tyrant and just evil to my daughter-in-law.
Okay.
And I went along with it because I understood why. I didn't get offended. And so I was in the waiting room thinking, that's what he wants. That's why I'm here. So anyway, he has them go back to the waiting room. I go back in and talk. And I just looked at him and smiled. He said, you know why I asked you to come? And I said, I think so. I said, because we had this generational thing going. And I decided it was abuse. And I decided I didn't want to do it. I said, so I tell my son I love him every day, and I will until he's 110 years old. I just, because I want him to feel loved. And I said, you just want to make sure I'm not going to overpower my daughter-in-law. And he said, I don't think you will. I said, no. I said, I'm actually honored. I'm not offended. I said, I'm very honored you would ask me to come and talk.
Yeah.
Very, very good. But how can a parent let go? Because sometimes parents, it's a generational thing, they were raised that way. And they overpower their kids and their in-laws, their son-in-law and daughter-in-law.
Yeah. One research shows us that oftentimes when people have encountered their own trauma, when they become a parent, it's either they will neglect their child or they become a helicopter parent, and they are just hovering, and the kiddo doesn't get a chance to make decisions on their own. So I think that's sometimes part of the healing process. You know, it's recognizing, and even therapy, counseling can help you with those positive parent-child interactions. I
was so lucky, though. When I grew up, I had wonderful friends, and their parents were just such wonderful people. And it was peaceful to get to go to their house. We got to have fun, and we got to play with dolls and all those different things young kids do. But it was a different environment, and I loved that environment. And my brother and I, again, we kind of helped each other coach along in life. And so now my sister turned out differently, and she was way younger than us. And so she has carried on some of those traits. So it's a sad thing to see that happen. But to be able to recognize that we have to be around of our surroundings. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. I think that our surroundings can have more of an impact on us than we want to admit sometimes. But I also think that God can work in all of that. You know, He'll allow us to go through things so that we can be comforted in those. And at the end, it's so we can comfort others. It's not for us to, to get any sort of sense of superiority or, like, well, I turned out better than you, or if I can do it, you should do it, but it's to have that compassion, and that empathy and that understanding that we both went through some rough stuff. But there is a way out. We have the ability. And it also goes into show the power of how much positive role models and positive people can impact us and the longevity. Yeah. It makes
all the difference in the world. We're going to have to go. I cannot believe.
I know, my goodness.
Amanda, how can folks get in contact with you?
Yeah, go to our website, www.chayah, that's CHAYAHMIN.org, and fill out a contact us form there.
Absolutely. Thank you again so much. You're helping a lot of folks. And thank you guys so much for watching the show. We definitely appreciate that very much. Always good to see you, 1 p.m. Central Time. I hope you have a super awesome rest of the day. You guys take care. Amanda, hang around. I need to get you ready for the next month.
Sounds good.